All right, guys, if you remember, this is Talasha Moore out of Ypsilanti. This is the aunt of King's son. So if you remember, that is when King Jarvis and Neziah had went up there to drop off the car to her mother. And this is her testimony that night.
Yes. Watch your step.
Speak into the mic here. Pick it up and hold it in your lap if you like.
Okay.
Thank you. Could you state your name for the record?
Talasha Moore.
And, excuse me, Ms. Moore, I'm going to ask you a couple questions, but first I want to ask you, do you...
My nephew. My 17-year-old nephew.
So, your sister's son?
Yes.
Gotcha. And is that how you met Mr. Wright?
Yeah.
Or your sister?
Yes.
Okay. And in what context is your relationship with Mr. Wright? How did you know him? Did he ever do anything for you? Things like that.
He fixed my mother's car. He worked on her car.
Okay. And what kind of car does your mother drive?
A red Jaguar.
And what's your mom's name?
Jacqueline Campbell.
And going back to January of 2024, where were you living at the time? Not your specific address, just the city.
Ypsilanti.
And who else lived with you in Ypsilanti?
My mom and my son.
Okay. And would Mr. Wright ever come out to Ypsilanti to fix your mom's car, her Jaguar?
Yes.
How often did he do that?
Like a couple times. At least 2 times.
And was that around January of 2024?
That was the last time.
In January was the
Yes.
last time? And when he would go out there, would he bring anyone with him?
This last time he did.
What about
Or
prior?
the last 2 times. So before January 9th, him and someone else came, and then on January 9th, they both came.
Okay. And the person that he brought with him, do you see that person in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And could you point to him and identify a piece of clothing he's wearing?
Well, I can only see the top of his head right now.
Are you 100% sure that it's that person? Ms. Moore, do you see the person that Mr. Wright brought with him?
I do.
And could you point to him and identify a piece of clothing he's wearing?
A green one-piece thing.
For the record, the witness has identified Jarvis Butts, the defendant in this matter.
So reflected.
Thank you. And you said Mr. Butts came out how many times with Cordell?
At least 2. So this last time in January and the time before that.
Okay, and the time before that, who was anyone else with the two of them?
No.
And what were they doing the time before January 9th?
Working on the car. I can't remember. It was a couple of things they had to fix on it. And they came out and did it in the driveway.
Sorry.
No. I was just going to say the last time when we got the car towed to the shop and they drove it back up.
Okay. And so in between the most recent time before January 9th, the Jaguar, correct me if I'm wrong, was towed to Detroit?
Correct.
Okay. And then on January 9th, did you see that red Jaguar again?
Yeah.
Okay. Who brought that Jaguar out to Ypsilanti?
Cordell and Jarvis.
Okay. And was anyone else with Cordell and Jarvis?
Yes.
Who was that person?
Neziah.
And I want to clarify, at the time on the 9th, when Cordell, Jarvis, and Neziah came, did you know that that was Neziah Harris?
No.
Do you know that now?
I do know now.
Okay. And is that based on information you've learned or seen in the news and things like that?
Well, it was based on when the detectives came to the house to question us. That's when I found out who she was.
Let's talk about when they came out on the 9th, January 2024. What was that interaction? How long did it last? Can you kind of take me through, start to finish, their visit and delivering the car?
So they came, they delivered the car. They were talking to my mom about what was wrong, gave her the invoice. It was just like a regular day. When they came in, they sat on the couch for a few minutes. Neziah was sitting in the chair by the TV. We spoke, very brief. asked her if she wanted something to drink. She didn't. My 6-year-old son ran up to her, the dog. You know, it was just very mellow. They sat there, we talked about the car and stuff. We talked about my nephew. Cordell was trying to wait till my nephew got out of school, but because he was on tether, they had to leave. So they didn't get to stay long enough for my nephew to come.
And your nephew would be Cordell's son?
Cordell's son, yeah, correct.
Did you talk to Mr. Butts about Naziah? Did he introduce her or anything like that?
We just asked, you know, hey, you know, everybody spoke. He said this is his niece, and that was pretty much the basis of it. I cannot remember if he said her name or not, but he did introduce her as his niece.
And so, just to be clear, not sure about the name, but he said this is his niece about Naziah. Is that a yes?
That's a yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. And then after that conversation, well, let me ask you, during that time when they were there, did you notice anything that was unsettling or concerning about Naziah?
No.
It was just a normal interaction?
Yes.
After that interaction was over, did the three of them, Cordell, Jarvis, and Naziah, leave your house?
Yes.
Okay. And as far as you know, they were headed back to Detroit, correct?
Correct.
When they left, whose car were they leaving in?
Cordell's truck.
And all three of them were in the same car?
Yes.
And you said that they were delivering the Jaguar to your mom or to your house, correct?
Yes.
Did you see them pull up? Do you know what the driving and seating arrangements was?
I do not.
Okay. I have nothing further, Christine.
Okay, Ross.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, you're technically not related to Cordell, right?
Correct.
That's just the uncle of, I'm sorry, he is the
The
father
father.
of your nephew. Okay. How would you say your relationship is with Mr. Wright?
It's cool. Like, no issues.
You got along with him well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And you know Cordell worked as a mechanic?
Correct.
Okay. And how long has he worked on your vehicles? Was this something new, or had he worked on your vehicles previously?
I think he might have changed the oil on one of my cars a couple years back, but not that frequently.
Okay. And you knew he had did you know he had a shop that he worked out of?
Yes.
Okay. Had you been to this shop?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that there was a time prior to January 9th that he came up and worked on the car, correct?
Correct.
And you said that my client was with him that time.
Correct.
Do you recall when that was?
It had to be in the summer. I cannot recall the exact date.
But it was the summer of 2023?
Yes.
Okay. And that was the first time you had seen Jarvis Butts?
Yes.
Did you say anything to him that day?
Yes.
The first time?
Yes. We talked about me being a member of Zeta and that he had a cousin or somebody that was a Zeta, but it was very mellow, like.
So that summer of 2023, you had a fairly decent conversation with them, correct?
Correct.
And it lasted for a period of time, correct?
Correct.
So on January 9th, when you saw him, you knew who he was.
Correct.
You had recognized him because you had spent time with him, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you had the car, and you knew that he was partnered with Cordell at the shop, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So on January 9th, approximately when did you have the car towed down to his shop?
I think we had it towed maybe like the 4th or the 5th.
So it was there from the 4th, okay? And it was the 9th that they brought it back?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know approximately what time the car was brought back?
Had to be before 3:30 p.m.
There was three.
Well, no. It had to be before 5:30 because my sister got off work at 5:30. So mid-afternoon.
Okay. But you're not sure the exact time?
I'm not sure the exact time.
Was it light or dark outside?
It was still light out.
Okay. And they came up, they pulled the Jaguar in first, the driveway.
Correct.
Right. And then Cordell's car was behind us.
I believe so.
Okay. When they pulled up, did you see them exit the vehicles?
No,
Okay. So you don't know who was driving what?
I don't.
Okay. So at that point, they came into the house, correct?
Correct.
And did they all walk in together? Or
Yes.
Okay, so Cordell came in, followed by Jarvis, correct?
I can't tell you the exact. I don't know if Naziah walked in first or if Jarvis walked in first.
Okay. And this young lady. And to be fair, you didn't know who she was, correct?
Not at all.
Do you recall what she was wearing when she came?
I think she had on a jacket. But I can't really.
Don't recall?
No.
Okay. Do you recall what any of them had on that day?
Not really.
Okay. So, do you recall, without going into your house, was it dark, light in your house? Were the lights on?
The lights were on.
Okay. And you have a fairly large living room?
Yeah.
Okay. So when they came in, you said that Naziah sat next to the television.
So yeah, like when you're coming in, there's like a red cabinet type thing. The TV sits on top of it, and then there's a chair right, like a chair sitting right next to it, and that's where she was sitting.
Okay. And when she came in, did she introduce herself?
She did not.
Okay. So she came in, sat down, right?
We offered her to see, like, came in, Cordell said hello. He was doing most of the talking. Jarvis said hello. Said, this is my niece. Then was like, y'all have a seat.
Okay.
Cordell sat on the couch. There's a couch this way, and then a long couch this way.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I was just gonna say, I believe that they were both on this couch. Naziah was in the chair, and me and my mom were on the longer couch.
So your mom was there?
Yeah.
Correct? All right. And you all were conversing, correct?
Correct.
And it's fair to say that you weren't conversing with Naziah, correct?
A lot of people in the comments found it strange that she didn't really converse with Naziah. And I mean, it was just a typical night. You know what I mean? Like, even my own moods, it depends. If somebody entered my house, in the late evening, I might be very talkative. I might not say anything. It just depends on how I feel. But it's not like she's young too. A lot of time we don't have anything too much to say to a child that young. She asked if she wants something to drink. She said no. That was pretty much it. I mean, what else are you going to say? And again, it depends on, how I feel that day. I might be like, hey, will you go to school, and such, and I might not. It all depends. I think most of us are like that.
No.
You were conversing with Jarvis. I'm sorry, you were conversing with Cordell.
Cordell and Jarvis about the car and the invoice that they brought.
All right. And you said at some point your son came up and was talking with Naziah?
Correct.
Okay. And how long did this conversation last?
Like all of our conversation?
Right. How long were they there?
Probably between like 30, 45 minutes.
Okay.
Maybe an hour.
And while they were there, you didn't notice anything, and I think you already mentioned this, you didn't notice anything out of the ordinary, correct?
Correct.
A couple of months ago, when I had seen this interview, I thought that they were going for pretending it was another child. You know, like it wasn't Naziah. It was another child, perhaps one of his children, but no. Everyone knows it was Naziah. So I'm thinking now, are they going on the angle like, is she pregnant? You know, did you see anything strange? Like, was she pregnant? Everybody has said that Naziah was very small, tiny in description. She looked like a little girl. I mean, that's still what she looks like when we watch her on videos. So unless, you know, maybe it was summer where you could like see her stomach, that it's a pregnancy stomach, because yes, if you are a female and you had a baby, or you pretty much know how pregnant, you know, women look, then we would say, oh, she looks pregnant. You know, if it was, of course, like during the summer where she had less clothes on, but she had on a jacket, you know, she was sitting down too. That's another reason why he was asking pretty much, was her house dark and how big was the living room? Like, she's way across on the other side and can't notice things. Anyway, yeah, this lawyer, he gets on my nerves too, but that's what I feel about the situation.
Did you see Jarvis Butts conversing with Naziah Harris?
No,
So they didn't have any conversation?
no,
Okay. And you didn't notice anything awkward or out of the ordinary between the two?
correct. I didn't
Okay.
notice anything.
So after about an hour, they left?
Correct.
Was it light or dark at that
It was
point?
still fairly light.
All right. And they got into Cordell's car, correct?
Correct.
You don't remember the scene, I think you've already
No,
said
I
that.
do not.
But was Cordell driving?
Correct.
Okay. So that day you didn't think anything out of the ordinary happened, correct?
Correct.
And at some point you were contacted, correct?
Correct.
When were you contacted?
Well, we were contacted by Cordell the next day because when we paid the invoice, it was $70 short. So we had to get Jarvis's Cash App to send the rest of the money. So that was the last part of the conversation. And then the detectives came, I want to say the end of March,
So the end of March. So
I believe. I don't know the exact day, but it was at least a month or two later.
and it was when the detectives came, is when you found out that the person that was in your house was Naziah Harris, correct?
Correct.
All right. And did they tell you that this person was Naziah Harris?
They asked me if I knew who she was, and they asked me if I knew who Cordell was. They showed me a picture of Mr. Butts. They asked me if I knew who all these people were, and they asked me if I knew her name, and I did not know her name at that time.
Okay. And they told you her name?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay. And at any point, did you look up why they were there or look up any information about this case
Yeah, after they left.
after they left?
Mm,
Okay, and what did you look up?
Objection, relevance.
I just want to see where her information came from.
As long as the results of what she looked up.
I want to see the information that she had that go into her testimony.
Go ahead.
There's obviously there's podcasts out that are a bit unfavorable.
It's not obvious.
Well-
I don't know.
Okay, you don't know. Okay. What did you look up?
I looked up Mr. Butt's oldest record,
Okay.
but I tried to type in his name, I typed in Cordell's name, tried to see if anything came up. At that time, there wasn't anything posted, but I didn't find much, other than his record.
Okay. Just one more, yeah. No further questions.
We need redirect.
Yeah, very. Ms. Moore, Mr. Reagans was just asking you about information that you looked up and things like that. When the police were at your house, though, when the detectives were at your house, first, do you know if those were Detroit police officers?
Yes, Detroit police detectives.
Detectives, okay. And you said that they showed you a picture of, in court, you said Neziah, right?
Say it one more time.
They showed you a picture of Neziah at that time, correct?
Correct.
Did you identify that picture when the police were there as Neziah Harris? Did you say her name?
No, I said that's the mechanic's niece.
So just to be clear, you identified her as the girl that was at your house
Correct.
with the defendant, Jarvis Fox.
Correct.
Okay. And that was before you had looked up any information?
Correct, because I didn't know anything until the detectives came to the house.
And while Neziah and Jarvis and Cordell were at your house, you said Neziah was sitting next to the TV?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And did Neziah, during that 30 minutes to an hour, ever get up and leave, use the restroom or anything like that?
No.
Oh. And you mentioned earlier that Cordell was on a tether and that's the reason he had to leave, right?
Correct.
Do you know what Cordell's tether hours were at that time? Like what time you had to be back home by?
I don't know.
Okay. How far of a drive is it from Detroit to Ypsilanti?
Probably about 40 minutes.
And what was the reason that Cordell had to leave again?
Because he said he had to be back in the house for his tether.
Okay, so did it seem like he was in a little bit of a rush to get back, or he was cutting it close maybe with that drive, 40 minutes?
No, I think he had whatever he needed to do, and he just wanted to make sure he was in the city on time.
But is it fair to say that he would have left somewhat closer to his cutoff time? If that's the reason he left, or that he said?
Yeah,
I
object. I think that calls for speculation on her part.
I was going to say, I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you want to respond?
If she knows, I think it's a close call.
If you know the answer.
I don't. I don't know. I can't say.
I have no further questions.
Okay, you are done testifying.
Thank you.
Watch your step.
Well, Talasha's testimony was pretty short, and again, it just verified that Neziah was in the house. You know, she knows that was a little girl that was in the house. And that's where they were. Again, it seems like it was a lot of focus on King. And I know people are not a big fan of King, but King, he did not have anything to do with this. If he did, he would not be a defendant. You know, the court would not have gotten it wrong. You know, he was incarcerated during that time for something else. He would not be a defendant. He's a defendant because he was the last person that was around Neziah when, you know, around that time she went missing. I don't want to say the last hours of her life, but that's the way the courts are looking at it. He was around her pretty much the last, you know, day of her life. And he didn't witness nothing because she was in the car. It was cold. He was at work. He had, you know, to get home at a certain time. So everybody was just going about their day. The only person that knew that they had something to do was Jarvis and Neziah. That's why she was with him. But that's it. That's it. So they couldn't have, you know, did the testimony on Talasha like they did Tijuana and King, how they tried to throw them under the bus. But yet, Annette and Shannon, they say stay standing. So the next one I would like to do coming up soon would be the fiance, because I recall a little bit of that testimony, but remember that was the one who ended up, I believe, with the messed up car towards the end, if I'm believing it's correct. And I know that they raided her house, so I want to look a little bit more into that one. But otherwise, yeah, it just seems like, they're trying. It's sad when you have a case, but I know they're lawyers, so when you have a case where the person that you're representing is guilty, I guess you still have to go on about your job. And so far, girls and boys, what have we learned from all of this? Whenever somebody leaves your house, make sure you figure out their seating arrangement inside the vehicle.